Imagine living in a country that was structured and planned and everything was on time and everything was just solid and brilliant and good. And then moving to a country that was a little bit more lax, say, and everything was a little bit more easy. That is what it felt like for Tobias when he left Germany to move to New Zealand.
The image of Germans in countries is we are disciplined, we are correct, we are on time. And he said Kiwis are a bit scared of that.
In this week's episode, you're going to meet Tobias. Tobias is a member of our private NZAhead community, and he left Germany to move to New Zealand with his wife and his 2 little cats. And today, he's going to share all about what that adventure was like. So let's jump on in and meet Tobias. NZAhead, coming to you from Taranaki, New Zealand.
Got it.
Toby, welcome to the NZAhead podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. Do you know you are our first German guest ever to be on this podcast?
Thank you for having me and joining me. Yeah, the group, there are not many Germans. So I was surprised because a lot of actually think of New Zealand as a wonderful country. Yeah.
Well, let's just jump straight on in there. Let's talk about who you are and why you are in New Zealand and where you've come from. If you'd just like to introduce yourself, that would be absolutely fabulous.
Originally come from Stuttgart, which is in South Germany. And I met my wife, Judith, at the university. Basically just moved together after we finished our study. Near Lake Constance, which is close to the border to Austria and Swiss for over 12 years now. We are both IT managers, so started as software engineers and became team leads and managers. Yeah, so that's basically the rough summary of our history and why we moved to New Zealand. Things came together a bit. So we had paid our apartment. We both have in our jobs had enough experience that we would say, yeah, that's fine. That works out. We were both a bit unsatisfied with our jobs at that moment. So it was not bad. We were happy, but still open for something new. And as we already thought about migrating to New Zealand 7 years ago, we just thought, yeah, well, maybe it's time to just think about that again. And that's basically how things started moving in, I think, September 22.
22, right. So had you ever been to New Zealand before?
No, we were never in New Zealand. The funny thing is we did a rational benchmark in the end, so really objective benchmark of countries that we would like to live in. And then we just said, well, we don't want to learn a new language. So, for example, countries like Sweden, Portugal, or Spain were basically gone at that moment because we both didn't want to spend the effort and time. We were lazy at that point regarding languages. Then in the end, there were 7 countries left, which were New Zealand, Australia, Canada, USA, Singapore, Ireland, and Netherlands.
Right.
And then we just benchmarked them regarding their social policies, regarding political situations, social situation, people, country, culture, and all these things. And in the end, New Zealand was at number 1, Australia number 2, and Canada number 3.
It's weird, isn't it? Canada always is like in one of those top boxes, isn't it? Where Canada or New Zealand, it comes up every single time.
We also watched a YouTube channel that was basically comparing countries with each other. So why you would want to move to a country and why you wouldn't want to move. That was also helpful just to get an idea. Because, for example, we didn't think of Singapore.
No.
Because I don't know why. So it was not on our initial list, but it became an option once we had some more information about it. And I think that's something that I would suggest to everyone. Just if you consider moving from your country to another country, just be open-minded and look around. If you have one specific target, of course you don't need to, but for us it was super helpful.
Do you know what? I can't wait to dive into this show because I think not only are you the first German person I've ever interviewed on the podcast, but a lot of people that we talk to move from the heart and they make emotional decisions. And they're like, oh, yeah, we want to just move to New Zealand because, we want to be free or we just want this better lifestyle. But including myself, I'm talking about myself here as well. You can't quite put your finger on why it is you want to move to New Zealand. So the thought of you two, you and Judith, sitting down and writing this list of 7 countries and then going through it one by one, going, well, does it match this? Does it match that? That's just fantastic. And I just think, what a flipping brilliant way to decide where you're going to live. So I'm really, really interested later in the show to work out whether that played out and worked out for you guys.
Very rational, objective way to select the country. That's true. So
yeah.
it was not by heart, as you said. So
Actually, before we move on, why did New Zealand play first over Australia? What was it that tipped the scales that made you think, no, not Australia, I'm going to New Zealand?
It was basically the people. So Judith's best friend traveled around the world for a year, and he stayed for a pretty long time in Australia and New Zealand. So we had firsthand information on how people are, how the country is, and so on. And he said, yeah, the Kiwi people are nicer. They are more polite. You can have a proper discussion with them, which he didn't experience in Australia that much. Also, the countryside. So that was also an option. Australia is basically a huge land, but in the end, everything happens in the big cities. It would be very crowded again. And that was something that we found very nice in New Zealand, that there are not that many people around you. Even in cities like Christchurch, even if it's crowded, it doesn't feel crowded for us German, because the big cities are completely different in Germany than,
Yes.
I mean, in the UK, I guess exactly the same. It just feels completely different. Yeah, that tipped the scale in the end. Something else, we liked how New Zealand treats the Maori situation. You can argue whether specific decisions are good or bad. That's up to everyone. But I think just discussing about it and addressing the situation was something we said, yeah, well, from a social and cultural point of view, that's something we appreciate and we value somehow. And I think those were the reasons where we said, yeah, it seems to be a nice place to go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm certainly glad that you did, and you are here. And I forgot to mention that you were living in Christchurch. So, but before you and Judith, and you've got a couple of cats as well that you brought over. They're your babies, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow.
So before you, Judith, and the cats arrive, or you're living in Christchurch, let's just rewind it and go back to your decision. So you've had these 7 countries on the list. You've crossed them off. You don't want that. You don't want Singapore. You don't want Australia. You don't want Canada. You want New Zealand. But I know that there were a couple of things there that, even though you've done all this like strategic going through planning, there were a couple of things that you say that you've talked about that would make pulling you back to Germany and like thinking, oh, should we leave Germany? Can you just share what maybe one of those things was that you were just thinking, oh, just holding you back a little bit, and why not to leave Germany? What was that?
Those considerations came later when I was here for 3 months in New Zealand. So this where I sometimes thought, well, do we do the right thing? Something like that. When we're back in Germany and we took the decision and we agreed on what we want to do, so that we want to move to New Zealand, we basically started executing. So we had the plan in our hand and we said, well, that is what we want. We discussed how we would like to tackle it. There were different options. In the end, we said, okay, one of us will hand in his notice, so quit the job. So there's no limitation in time, or that you're as flexible as you can in the end. We hired an immigration advisor in Germany that took care of everything for us from an organizational point of view regarding visas and all the other stuff, because we didn't want to tackle that on our own. That was bureaucracy, and we would have to do enough other things once we moved that it's fine with that. We pay for that service. That's perfectly fine. So we can just suggest everyone to do it. That's what it is. Yeah, and then I handed in my notice. My boss was a bit surprised that I quit, but in the end, understood it. And I mean, the cool thing was he even offered me to just wait with the quitting my job or handing in the notice, because he said, well, if you're there and you think about it, that it's different. This discussion never happened, and you can just continue working. So that was fine.
That's nice. That's nice to have that flexibility, isn't it? So let me just make sure that, so you have the decision. You want to move to New Zealand. Both of you are quite a little bit disheartened with your jobs in Germany. You want to move over to New Zealand. So one of you hands your job in, gives in the notice.
Yeah.
And then you come over to New Zealand to do a recce. That's right. That's what you did, wasn't it?
Yeah. Basically, I went to New Zealand for 3 months while Judith was still in Germany, working until end of May, so a bit longer. And the basic idea was that I would just travel around the country, have an impression of what we expected to see, that this is true, and that we don't have any unpleasant surprises. I just moved here, traveled around the country, saw a lot of cities. I changed my mind quite a bit where we want to end up. In the beginning, we said Auckland would be great, Wellington would be great, and maybe Hamilton or Tauranga, so those 4 areas. And in the end, Tauranga remained. It's still a beautiful area. And then I didn't like Auckland. It's just not as nice. It reminded me a bit of Berlin in Germany. So it was a bit gray, a bit dirty. I mean, still much cleaner than it is in Germany, but still, Taranaki area is super beautiful, really.
Nice.
So this would be a place. Yeah, there seem to be some nice people. No, that was beautiful. And Christchurch surprised me. We didn't want to go to Christchurch actually, but the initial thoughts were it's in the south, it's cold. We wanted actually to be more in the warmer area, or let's say more tropical climate. And it's so far away from everything else. Most of the things are on the North Island, so touristic stuff. But the character of Christchurch actually got me somehow. So the earthquake is still visible everywhere, or not everywhere, but in a lot of places. But it has its charm. So, and this is why I said, well, this is an option too. And then I got a job offered that actually matches Judith's skill set more than it did mine. Then things began going unplanned because.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the idea was that I moved to New Zealand, check everything up, say, well, that's fine. We move on, then find a job.
Right. Sorry, was Judith still working back in Germany while you were in New Zealand, and you still had your flat and everything like that? You still had everything was over there. So all you were doing was coming over to New Zealand and giving it a good look around, check out where you want to live, see what the job situation was, and then you were going to report back to Judith and go, yay or nay, we'll move over.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, I'm with you. Yes.
So we decided that we would want to make a decision by the end of May. So 2 months time, and then we would make a decision and move on. As I said, so everything was as we expected. The only thing that didn't work out was the job thing. I just didn't get an interview because having no work visa. So I was surprised that it is that hard to find a job. Yeah, I didn't get one. So I failed in that regard. So
it wasn't the right time.
Yeah, but I had a coffee with a recruiter here in Christchurch and was talking to her about it. And she said, well, I might have a job for you. I'm more the software IT guy, and my wife is more on the hardware side. And she offered me a job for a team lead position as a team leader of hardware software developers, or hardware near software developers. Well, I thought I could apply for the position, but maybe Judith has better skill set for that. And then I just sent her the job description. And at that moment, she was on Bali with her mother because they wanted to have a vacation together for the last time before she moves to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I just wrote her, well, here's a job. We need to apply within a few days. Where is your CV? And she didn't have one. So we started, well, while she was sitting at the pool with her mom, she sent me some messages. Yeah, please write this into my CV. And I was sitting here in New Zealand, typing her CV, sending it back. She corrected it again. And so that was back and forth. Then she applied. And obviously we are here. So it went pretty well. But it was super stressful for her because she quit end of May. So 31st of May.
Yeah.
She already had 2 interviews via Zoom at that moment. But they wanted to see her in person at least once before she signs the contract. So she had to get to New Zealand. So she bought a ticket end of May, 1 or 2 weeks before she left. And between her last day at work and the moment she took the plane was about 4 days.
Oh,
so super stressful.
Stressful, yeah.
Yeah, so really super stressful. She was really annoyed. Let's phrase it like that.
Annoyed at you for getting her the job, or that she didn't have any time off, or what?
Basically both. I hate packing up things and moving on. So I didn't want to pack all the things, organize the whole transportation stuff. I'm more the guy that's like, hey, well, a new country, let's find a home, let's go on, prepare everything. And that was the plan. So I prepare everything. She would have 1 or 2 months off, a bit of vacation, can pack all the stuff and then just arrive here and everything is prepared.
Yeah.
And in the end, it went exactly the other way around. We both did what we didn't like to do. Yeah. So that was really stressful. And she just hardly managed to say goodbye to her family. She wasn't even able to say goodbye to most of her friends. That was really rushed in the end.
Yeah.
And she was really done once she arrived in Christchurch. So she had to take a day just sleeping and getting some energy back.
So let me hold you there. Let me just pause a minute.
Yeah.
So because I need to process this in my brain. So you decided to go to New Zealand. You've got your 7 countries. Number 1 is New Zealand. You come over. You go around the country. you look around, you get to Christchurch, there's a job that they say, oh yeah, this would suit you, Toby. And in your mind, you're thinking, hang on a minute, no, Judith can have this job. She can come over here and have this job. And she's on holiday with her mum in Bali. You write your CV and get her the job and all this. And then she moves over, she hands in a notice at work in Germany and moves over to New Zealand to take this job. Is that right? It's the job in Christchurch?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
That was the job in Christchurch.
Oh my gosh.
So
that poor woman.
Was maximizing the chances. So we just did everything to have my former boss at work said, well, I understand what you're doing, because he fully understood why I would quit instead of just taking a 3-month unpaid vacation or something like that, because he said, yeah, I fully get it. If you have a dream or if you have a goal, you should put 100% of your energy just into that goal and move on. And then don't care about what it means to leave your job or whatever, because...
It's your German boss that said this?
Yeah, my German boss said that to me.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, we had a pretty good relationship. So we were both always straightforward. And so that was actually easygoing. So
yeah. So Judith, New Zealand.
She arrives here.
And then what do you do? Where do you go? Do you go back to Germany to sell the flat? And
so no, we had almost 2 weeks here together. So after 3 months of being separated from each other, we met here again.
Oh, that's nice.
And then had 10 or 12 days where we could just travel around the country a bit together and enjoy the time here. But of course, we also had to organize stuff. By the time I knew how to get your I don't know, AA membership, we did, because we said, well, if we're in a new country, just pay for it for a year, and you don't have to think about that problem if your car breaks down. A lot of other stuff we had just to figure it out, getting her bank account, stuff like that. But we went to Lake Tekapo, had a weekend there, so we spent some quality time, but also some work that we had to do. Yeah, after 10, 12 days, I left the country on the last day of my tourist visa, I guess. So I think it was really the last day after exactly 3 months.
And you
went back to Germany.
Poor Judith. I mean, you are here because you love New Zealand.
You might be moving to New Zealand,
living in New Zealand, or you might just spend your days dreaming of visiting this gorgeous country. Because we love New Zealand as much as you do, we have compiled a short and very unique 5-day video series showcasing life in New Zealand, what it's really like. These videos are real, they are exclusive, and best of all, they're absolutely free. So if you would like to view New Zealand from the inside out and find out what life is really like down here, sign up now, and every day for 5 days we will send you a personal 3-minute video showcasing some brilliant aspect of life in New Zealand. You are gonna love it. Go to www.itsadrama.com/ILoveNZ. We can't wait to share those videos with you. Okay, let's get back on with the show. Poor Judith. I mean, good on this woman. I mean, I think we should have had her on this call. Yeah. But yeah, that takes an awful lot. And she'd never been to New Zealand before. Is her English as good as yours? It obviously is, because she got the job. So her English must be excellent.
Yeah. We both speak English in our working environment, and that helped us, of course, to just find contacts here.
And did you just say to her, oh, okay, love, you'll be all right. You just sit tight here and I'll go back to Germany and get everything sold and sorted, and I'll be back when I can. Is that what you said?
Pretty much, yes. So it sounds a bit cool if you phrase it like that, but yes, this is what I did.
That's the way it is, Toby.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But that's how it needs to be, yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, that is how it needs to be. And you know what? I love this, because this is a perfect example of jumping on an opportunity that's, like you say, if you're going to go for this dream and there's this job here, and good on Judith for being flipping brave enough and up for it, that she would, and you worked as a team, and she's over here and she's like, no, you just go back and sort the house and everything out and get the cats over and just do what you need to do, and I'll hold the fort here in Christchurch. I just think you're an amazing team for doing this. And I'm just intrigued. I can't ever imagine me doing that with Brian. I don't think I'd be brave enough. So yeah, absolutely hands off. So tell me how was it when you went back to Germany, just being apart, and like, did she say she liked New Zealand, or was there any time that she said, do you know what, I don't really like it here, don't bother selling the flat because I think I should come home? Was there any of that?
I mean, this is what we already agreed on before we even started, so that every one of us could just say, well, that's it for me. We'll stop it here. We fly back to Germany. That's it. So this is something we already discussed. What happens if we don't find a job? For example, we already planned that if I wouldn't manage to find a job, she would just then go to New Zealand and try it on her own.
Right.
We said that if somebody dislikes it for whatever reason or feels unsafe, insecure, whatever it is, just say no, and we go home to Germany and find a new job there. Because I think it's an important decision. It has some impact on your life, I guess. And everybody should be able to just say, yeah, no, I don't feel comfortable with it anymore, because that can happen. And this is also why we drove around the country while we were here together, just that I could explain a few things, exchange the impressions that I had of the country, and she could also see more than just Christchurch. Yeah, so that was an option for every one of us. I think we said we are really sticking to the plan no matter what. Once the container is gone and when the cats are on their way to New Zealand. So those were the two things that we said, okay, once this happens, we are done, because the container costs about 16,000 euros from Germany to New Zealand. So it's pretty expensive.
16,000?
And we said 16,000, yeah.
How big was the container?
20 feet, not the big one, the small one.
16,000 euros?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's gone up in price, hasn't it? I mean,
it did. So it was about 3,000 or 4,000 before COVID. And since then,
wow,
it just went upwards all the time. I mean, I didn't pack all the boxes and all the stuff. We worked with the company together. They packed everything for us, put it into container. So because it would have taken me weeks or months to do that alone, or even with friends. And I didn't want to ask the friends doing it because, yeah, it just didn't feel right for me at that point. Yeah, so we worked with the company together that packed everything for us within 3 days, put it into container, and sent the container away.
Let me just pause you. I've got a question.
Yeah.
So first of all, oh God, this is brilliant. So wow. So I'm going back to Judith. I'm going back to Judith now, in New Zealand.
Do that? Yeah, that's fine.
And you two, now I've got even more respect and admiration, because you two have got the kind of relationship that have said to each other, look, if either of us feel that this is the wrong choice, that we're not happy, that, we want to call it off, we can do that. We can just come straight back to Germany and we can carry on. But Judith, once that container leaves that's cost me 16,000, I don't care if you want to come home. And that's the end of it.
Yeah, you will be right at that moment.
So yeah. Before we move on to the rest of the story, can I just ask, when you came over to New Zealand for 3 months, you met Judith for that 2 weeks and everything, hand on heart, was there anything that you thought, oh no, that wasn't what I expected? Like in that 3 months that you came over, was that, because I know you just said that you were preparing Judith for things that when she came over, was it all positive, or was there anything negative that you thought, look, you need to know about this because this is a bit rubbish, or anything like that?
So nothing that surprised us. So we actually prepared really well, to be honest. We were surprised. We didn't expect that. But everything that is in the end that we knew would be an issue, for example, finding houses. I mean, that's not within the 3 months that I was there, but we already knew that houses are built differently here than they are in Europe, especially in Germany. So that was, we knew about it. We knew if you go into smaller cities, you have this a bit American style where you have the main street and all the small shops on each side, and they look crappy. That. So they're gonna look super crappy, and you would never go in there. And I didn't do it for the first week or so until I realized, well, if I don't do that, I will not visit any shop here in New Zealand.
It's going to be boring life.
Yeah. So that's just how it's not as important as it is in Germany that your shop looks fancy or stuff like that. It's just a different culture. And I think that was something that still surprised us because you have to change it. And something that also was, for me personally, great was not having people around you, not even Judith. So that was even a good part of being separated for 3 months, because as you said, we are a team and we usually always discuss things like, or make decisions like we did with New Zealand. So discussing it, pros, cons, worst case scenarios, how to handle them, and then we take a decision. But this also, as a result, you don't really think about your own that much. So you don't reflect on things, what is important to you, because you're in this constant way of improving your situation, talking about things you want to do, and you rarely have a moment where you can just sit there, think about things, and then it's 1 or 2 days at max, but not 3 months. And not having to take care about a job, and also not taking care about money, because Judith was still working in Germany. You could really relax. So you really could sit at the beach for 4 hours and just think about something and enjoy it, and enjoy the sea, the water, and then go back home, have dinner in the evening in a restaurant, and then that's fine.
Yeah.
This is something that helped me also being even more secure about what we're doing, because I think I will do fine here in New Zealand. This more relaxed attitude, and this will help me. That's a good thing.
You're going to whip the Kiwis into shape with all your planning and your project management and your.
Yeah, that might be a problem. That's true. And my German direct talk, yeah, maybe.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So again, I know I keep saying, before we get to the part about you arriving in Christchurch and living your life together here in New Zealand, I'm interested to know, what was the worst case scenario? Like when you sat there and planned and you said, right, okay, we're going to move to New Zealand. What would have been like, how would you define a worst case scenario? Like if this is this, then we will just leave it and come home. What would be the tipping point for you, do you think, worst case scenario?
So our worst case scenario was in the end that we both quit our jobs in Germany, and each of us would be in New Zealand for 3 months without getting a job. Right. And then we would have been, so that was the worst case scenario, because we then wouldn't have an income anymore. We would have to find new jobs in New Zealand. Then the question is, because we had an apartment in Germany, would we get a job nearby the apartment, or would we have to move there as well? So we would have spent a lot of money for getting to New Zealand. We would have spent a lot of money traveling around. We wouldn't have a job anymore, and we might have to move in Germany and then sell our apartment anyway and move somewhere else. So this was basically the worst case scenario. But what also made us realize, what made it easier, is it's just money.
Yes.
And we were aware that we could easily burn, 50 to 80,000 euros doing that, or even maybe 100,000 euros, most terrible case. And it would be a serious setback. And at that point, we didn't have the money without selling the apartment. That was the worst case scenario. And then we said, well, it's just money. And the question is, would we regret not doing it?
Yes.
Later on, because we talked to a lot of people back in Germany when we thought about moving. Whenever you ask older people what do they regret, we just rarely get the answer, yeah, I should have bought, that car or that apartment or whatever. It was almost always things like, yeah, I got the offer, for a job back then, but I was too scared to say yes. Or like we did, yeah, you're now in a situation where everything aligns. You have the money, you have the experience, you have a stable relationship, as you said, where you can be apart for half a year without ruining your relationship. You have friends, you're stable enough to face some trouble, and all the things align. And then the question is, do you make the final step, yes or no? And we said, yeah, well, let's just do it. Oh. We would regret not trying it in the end. Exactly. And this was the last tip where we said, okay, yeah, let's just go.
That's brilliant. I love that. And that's exactly what that's always been our philosophy, is like, well, okay, don't do it, but imagine how you're going to feel in 10, 15 years time when you look back. So I'm so glad you did. Can I just ask, just on a like visa, I don't want to deep dive into visas, but just, I know people will be interested. So did Judith, just tell me about your visa and Judith's visa. Did she get a visa because she had the job offer? Did they sort all the visa out for her?
Yeah, the company she's now with was familiar with immigrants, so they were also accredited already, I think. As we were working with an immigration advisor, they communicated with each other, so it wasn't smooth. There were still some hiccups because sometimes the immigration advisor got the wrong document from the company, or we had to provide some information. These are things. So, for example, Judith's police report was older than 6 months, and we just didn't notice that. So she didn't renew it before she left Germany. This became a huge issue because we had to go to the consul of Germany here in Christchurch, and you just got an appointment every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. We spent a lot of time getting the police report so that the visa could be approved, and all these things come together. So preparing the documents is something that is really important, I guess.
Yeah.
So you should have everything in place. Our immigration advisor gave us a list of things that we should just prepare at hand in digital form. In the end, everything went well. So we had all the documents available. Once she got her work visa, I applied for the open work visa for 3 years. And Judith's visa is connected to the company she's working at.
Right.
We already applied for residency. So when they changed the way of how you apply with the point system, and they changed that, we were lucky enough to have everything there to just apply for residency before they changed it. We expect to have it in April.
Fantastic.
And then the next steps in the plan will be executed, like buying houses and stuff like that.
Yes. So you're on a partner visa that lasts for 3 year, 3 year work visa. That's yours.
Yeah.
You've applied for a resident visa as well.
Yeah. And it makes a difference. So I have interviewed now. It's still tough from coming from overseas. Companies are still a bit reluctant to get in touch with you, because I had a contact to a CEO here in Christchurch. We were drinking coffee together, and he told me, yeah, well, if you're from Germany, as you said, so the image of us Germans in countries is we are disciplined, we are correct, we are on time and stuff like that. And he said, Kiwis are a bit scared of that because it's just a different culture. And so bringing you as a team lead or a manager can be tricky, because they are afraid that you just ruin their whole culture in the company. And people will leave. Yeah, because you're too German for them. And they said, yeah, you just need to be a bit patient and it will work out. But he also told me, yeah, don't expect that you have a job within 1 or 2 weeks if you want to go into a team lead position or something like that. It will take some time.
Yeah. Do you know what, Toby? I think you would be, I can't think of anyone better to employ that if I wanted someone to manage my team.
That's nice.
I can't think of anyone better. So you're here in Christchurch now. How long have you been in Christchurch?
I arrived at the end of October, beginning of November.
Okay.
So I arrived here actually 1 day before Judith's birthday.
Oh.
And she basically said, if you're here on my birthday, we will have a problem. I said, well, okay, I try.
Yeah.
And in the end, that was we had a bit of trouble with getting our cats here because of all the regularities and requirements that there are here for animals. So everybody that has an animal, cat, be it a dog, cat, prepare early on. So we actually we made a decision in December 2022. And even though we still had to wait because our cats were not vaccinated against rabies, and you need to wait 6 months before you can actually leave the country with the cats when you move to New Zealand. So, and these are things that you just need to be aware of.
Yeah.
Same, for example, motorbikes. You have to own a motorbike for at least 1 year on your name. So if it's not on your name for a year, you cannot bring it with you. And these are the things that you need to be aware of and plan ahead of time so that that you're prepared.
Right. Could you bring it with you and then just like, do you have to pay duty? Is that what you mean? You'd have to bring it over and you'd pay all like, it wouldn't be like.
Yeah, then you would, I mean,
goods.
Yeah. So it's a normal import. For us, basically, we could bring everything with us for free.
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
So for free, for the 16,000 free.
Yeah, exactly. 16,000. So when you come to, I'm really interested in this actually, because what that guy said to you about the culture in Germany, have you, because you know, Germans are known for being everything. I mean, everything that the Germans do is just like really solid, and you know, everything, they make really good things. And like you say, we have this impression that you're very on time, and like if you wanted something to be done, then you know, it's just like, that's what I'm saying. I can't think of a better person to employ. Has there been any conflict? Have you thought, oh, you're driving me insane, Kiwis, because of their attitude? Because he's right, Kiwis have got this very laid back, leisure before work kind of attitude, haven't they? You know, how has that felt coming from Germany and stepping into this new life in New Zealand? How has it felt for you and for Judith?
It felt pretty good. We are also both laid back person, so don't take ourselves too serious or yeah, things will be all right. We will find a way. So that's our attitude a bit. So that fits pretty well. That's why I also think I will feel fine here. So I will be good. There are some things that you just have to know, I guess. Kiwis will never tell you, no, that doesn't work because of, or at least that's my experience. They will always be polite and try to not say anything negative. And that's something you need to just to be aware of. So, for example, if you apply for jobs, they will say, yeah, I will contact you later on once I find something. And then you exactly know, yeah, well, then they just don't have anything for you right now, or they are not interested in you. And these are the things that you would get more direct feedback in Germany that in such cases. They would simply tell you, yeah, sorry, your skill set doesn't fit our requirements. See you. Goodbye.
Right.
So these are things you just have to be aware of.
Yeah.
But I was working for a US company, and they are similar in that regard, coming from a German country and then talking with US colleagues. In the beginning, it was a bit difficult because, as you said, the Germans say, okay, the meeting starts at 8:30 and we are online at 8:30.
We're there at 7:27.
Yeah. and then we discuss about why the topic, why we met. And we don't start with, oh, how are you doing? I went out to a beautiful restaurant yesterday. Nobody cares in Germany about things like that. So that's the culture difference in the end. But as I was working for a US company, I was prepared. So I knew that this was something.
Coming into it, yeah.
Yeah. So
do you like it?
Yeah, I appreciate, to be honest, because in Germany, when I went home from Germany after 3 months, you get off the plane, go into the airport, and then you see the people, and they are unfriendly, unhappy. It always looks like they don't want to work, doesn't like to work, don't like to work there, and they're just unfriendly. And that's this difference between New Zealand and Germany in that regard, that is huge. So this is something you immediately realize once you're there. They are so grumpy, the Germans. That is so annoying.
Yeah.
And people here, if you get into a restaurant, and even if people ask, yeah, how are you doing? It helps to just create a different atmosphere. I mean, of course, they don't care how I actually feel, but it creates this atmosphere that is more friendly, more relaxed, and I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
And I can see why. I love that. You've just described that absolutely perfectly, because yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just that whole softness, isn't it? It's just because part of me then, when you were saying about Germany, I thought I'd quite like that. I'd quite like it if people were really direct with me and like really like, there's one part that I would think, yeah, that would be good, rather than this, because honestly, I would be the world's worst. I'm like, oh yeah, well, I really like you, and I love your shirts, but trouble is we haven't really got a job for you. But it doesn't matter, because there probably will be, and that's what I, like the Brits tend to be like. So the thought of someone just going, no, I'm sorry, I don't like your shirt, and you haven't got the job, it's just that's quite attractive. But living that life every day, and like you say, getting up in the morning and everyone just looks a little bit grumpy and miserable, and I also can relate to that. And I just think, what nicer way to come into a meeting and someone go, oh, how was your day? Like, even if they don't care, it's just like, how is it going today? Like, how are the kids and how are the cats? And like, and just, it's nice just to have that softness, isn't it? So yeah. Fantastic. I've got a couple of questions here before I let you go. Would you do it again? If you had the chance, would you do it again?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Well, there's no question about that.
Was it all worth it? Was it all worth splitting up from Judith and just being away and 16 grand on the container and all the rest of it? Was it all worth it in the end?
This is something I can tell you yet. I think for now, yes, we enjoy how things are going. But I can tell you in 3 or 5 years, I guess, because I think that's the timeline where you can say, yeah, it was the right move or not. I can tell you, I don't regret it, and I'm happy, mostly happy how it is. So getting a job is still, also I still need to find a job, but that's basically the only thing that is not perfect right now. Yeah. And other than that, we are fine.
Have you getting a job? You're just waiting for the right job, you mean?
Yeah, so I have interviews and looking for a job that I would like to work on. At some point, I might have to take another job that is not perfect for me, but for now, as Judith has a job, we just said, well, just look for something, and if it takes a month or two longer, that's fine.
Yes, yeah. You're just surviving on one wage at the moment, and just like you're just using a bit of savings until you get that job sorted. That's fair enough. Yeah. Lots of people do that, and the right job will come along. And yeah, like I say,
I think so too. So
yes, definitely. Is there anything about Germany that you desperately miss, that you think, oh, I really miss that?
yes, I do. Beer.
Oh, really? Beer?
So,
I was hoping you were
all those.
that.
Of course, I do.
Oh,
All those IPAs. So we coming from the Lake of Constance, there are a lot of smaller breweries, and they have all different beer, but it's all this German Reinheitsgebot thing, so that only 3 ingredients, and so it's basically no IPAs, no is wrong, but most of the beer is classic beer in the end with different tastes, more hoppy or a bit lighter to drink, things like that. And this is something I didn't find here. I get used to the IPAs by now. I found some that I really enjoy and like, but this is definitely something I miss. And the same a bit with the food. There is a lot of fried stuff here in New Zealand, and sometimes I miss the other things. And the problem is both Judith and me were too lazy to cook.
right.
So we sit here in the evening, especially on the weekend, and think, do we want to cook? And I say, no, just let's go into the city. We live nearby, so it's a 15-minute walk into the city, and then we just go into the city and have dinner there. So this is something you could change, but other than that, at the moment, actually not. I mean, of course, meeting friends or stuff like that, you have a few friends that you really miss. But that's not a surprise. I mean, that's something that was clear from the beginning. Same with parents, with family. If you literally move to the other side of the world, then there won't be much. Yeah, I mean, FaceTime and all the stuff makes it super easy to talk with each other. So you're still connected, but you just can't meet. But that's fine for the most part. So that's okay.
What's your favorite German food that you can't get in New Zealand? What is it that if you could have one thing from Germany, one food, what is it that you miss the most?
Didn't think about that.
I'm sorry, this wasn't on the.
I think more. Actually, nobody asked me the questions just yet. So I think it's the classic food. So something like I don't know the English word for it, Rinderroulade, so basically some food that is typical German, like Spätzle or things like that. So these are things that I miss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
don't know
mean,
a lot about German food. That's the reason I ask, because I'm a big foodie. I love food, but I don't know many German dishes that you would think, like, like if you asked an English person, they might say, "Oh, I miss a Cornish pasty," or "I miss a steak pudding," or whatever. But I don't know enough about German food. That's why I asked. I'm sorry I put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. I just had to think about it, and but I think so. These are the things I miss from a food perspective. But on the same here, it was clear from the beginning that it would change. And I mean, you leave a country because you want to change something. And I never understood why people would want to have the things that they have in Germany or in their in their original country, why they would want to have the things in the new country as well. If you want to have that, then just stay in your country and be happy. Or be unhappy, whatever it is. But if you decide to move to a new country, go to a country where you would like to live and where you would like to adapt to the culture. And if you don't feel well with that, just stay where you are or take a different destination.
Yeah, that is such good advice. I mean, I feel a bit embarrassed now that I've just admitted to you that I miss Cornish pasties, because you can't get a decent Cornish pasty in New Zealand.
To be honest, I don't know what it is.
It's flipping lovely. It's lovely. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean, Toby. So many times we hear people, and I get it, we all do it. It's natural to just think, oh, I really miss this. But to be honest, the world is so, if it's just little things like HP sauce or a certain mushy pea brand, or like you say, a German pickle or something like that you think, you can get it online and you can get it shipped over if you're that desperate for it.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about, or certainly what I was thinking when you were saying that, is when people say things like, oh, you know, they don't teach the kids the same here, or, you know, I don't know. It's just like that, like big things that you think, why did you move then? Of course, it's not like that, you know. Yeah, there are lots of examples, and I can't think of one now. But that people say that you think, didn't you think about that before you? This isn't America. This isn't the UK. This isn't, you know, Germany, whatever. All those countries. It's New Zealand. You know, you've got to come and embrace New Zealand for New Zealand. Like, you know, I'm glad you said that. That's a really, really great point to remember as well for those thinking of moving to New Zealand. So.
Yeah. So for example, for me, what is, you asked me what I regret about New Zealand. I don't regret about it, but I'm a technical guy, so I have a lot of servers, PCs, whatever. I like those technical fancy stuff, and that is so super expensive here in New Zealand.
Right.
So I won't buy much of them anymore. So that's something that I was aware of before, and that is a sacrifice I had to make when I moved to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I think these are the things you just need to be aware of, and just think about what's important to you, and will you be happy with the situation in New Zealand or wherever you move to? Will you be happy with this specific situation? Because something that we were also told is, if you have an issue at home, or if we would be unlucky at home because, I don't know, the marriage is bad, or we are unsatisfied with our life or whatever, moving to another country won't solve those issues. You will be happy for half a year, and then those problems will pop up again. If you, I don't know, have a problem with yourself or whatever it is, fix them first, then go to another country, because it makes things so dramatically more difficult. Judith and me, we could rely on each other, and that was super helpful. If she had an issue here, she just called me. We went through it together, and figured out how we would like to do it. Same for me. If I had questions or struggled once in a while, we just had a talk. We actually almost had a call every evening, just to say hi, for example.
Yeah.
And if you have an unstable relationship or whatever the problem is, my advice would be, do not move, because things will get hard enough, and the problems you have at home, you will take them with you for sure.
Yeah,
and
that's good advice.
then you will have them here in a new country, without your social, with your friends, without the people that you are used to, and it will be much harder than it is in Germany or in your country.
That's such good advice. I just wanted to ask you, how did you find our community? Because me and Brian always think this. We're like, quite a few. I know we were saying earlier that not many German people are in the community, but it surprises us how many people reach out to us from Germany. So I always think, how did you find us? How did you come across?
It was the YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel.
So it was the YouTube channel. So as I said, we watched a few YouTube channels to get a better picture. We had a neighbor who told us things about New Zealand. They were working here for 2 years. But getting in contact with this community was really through YouTube.
Right.
And then just once we made the decision that we would move, we had said, yeah, well, then just let's, being part of it, try it out. Do we benefit from it? How does it feel to be there? And this is how we did it. I mean, I watched some of the videos at the airport, because I just signed up 3 days before I left or something like that. And so this is how we got in contact with the community. So that helps a lot. And also to get it better. I mean, what I can openly say, because I'm in the community, so it's not just saying nice things. So what we liked about your videos is that you also talked about things like, I don't know, when all the stuff got so expensive in New Zealand. So for example, the egg situation, where eggs got super expensive. And it seems like completely unimportant in the end, because who cares about eggs? But it shows you how things can quickly change here in New Zealand. So, and this is some things that we thought of, okay, if we're in New Zealand, it can also easily happen that, for example, if something like COVID happens again, or whatever it is, that you don't get the stuff into New Zealand, You will be self-sufficient, that's fine, but you have to accept that things get incredibly expensive, or tomatoes in the winter, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, $13 per kilo, that's a number.
Well,
And
don't get me started. Don't get me started on the price of avocado.
yeah, but it helped you so much to get an idea of where you're going to, because all of the other things, like how it does the visa stuff work, it's nice to hear, but this is something I can read online. So New Zealand has some incredible online pages. So that's really awesome. You get every information you need. I organized the transport of our cats completely based on the online page.
Yeah.
That was absolutely awesome. There's some pretty good documentation if you want to find out things. And now I lost track.
But what you're saying is real
right.
New
Zealand. But it helps you a lot. So all these things of this life topics that you face on a daily basis in the end, I think these are the things why we stick to your videos and continued watching, because it felt like a lot of other channels just always said, yeah, well, New Zealand is beautiful, blah 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 blah, but yeah, it's not beautiful. New Zealand is not utopia, so there are bad things here too. So and I think that's important, that not only telling people how beautiful it is, it definitely is. And if you're like me and say, I like the relaxed people and being a bit more laid back and more for example, you have to take care of yourself in New Zealand a bit. There is not much social help compared to Germany.
What do you mean?
But if you find it, that's okay. Yeah, so or social insurance. So, for example, health insurance in New Zealand. So, if you have an accident, New Zealand is absolutely perfect. But in general, it's less. You have less health. Less support when it comes to, I don't know, cancer or other things that are not an accident, that just happen. So that can be an issue in New Zealand. And I think things like that to know is important, because in the end, this is what will bite you. These are the things that you just need to be aware of. And you tell things like that. And I think that's good.
We try to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just jump in there and it feels like I've just said to you, oh, tell me all the lovely things that you love about.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm still here, so yes. There is a reason why I'm still here, right?
Thank you. Thank you. I was sitting there then thinking, oh God, it sounds like... Anyway, thank you for that. That's lovely. And yeah, we do try and show the real life. And let's just end this video actually by giving some real life advice, because is there anything that you think that, I mean, because obviously we're not German, we can only give like the UK, and we can interview people from like yourselves, but is there anything, if you were sitting out there now and you were in Germany and you were thinking, I want to move to New Zealand, it's just going to be such a better life, everyone's going to be so friendly, no one's going to be miserable, it's just going to be lovely in New Zealand, is there any piece of advice that you can think of that would help someone in that situation, keeping it real? Just what would you say to someone in Germany now that was thinking about moving to New Zealand?
So I think what is important is talking to people that already lived in New Zealand for quite some time. If you have the possibility to talk to someone who worked here for 2 years, like our neighbors did, or find someone who was on vacation, that's super. We spent a few evenings talking to these people just to understand. They told us housing in New Zealand can be crappy as hell. Just the windows super thin, just one glass in it, and all the things, or one sheet of glass in it, and mold can be an issue. Just so be careful if you look for a house. If it's too cheap, just don't take it, because there is a reason why it is. So things like that are important to know, and then just try to get as much information as you can. So I spent evenings over evenings just reading through blogs, through New Zealand websites also, to understand what are the conditions, what do you expect. Everybody needs to know what to expect from New Zealand. If you move to New Zealand, what do you actually expect? And then do a reality check if these things that you actually want to get and that you want to achieve, that this is possible. So for example, you have to be aware that you cannot simply buy a house once you move here. That was our initial idea. We sell the apartment in Germany, we move here, buy a house here, and everything will be fine. And then if we figure out after 2 years we don't want to live here, we sell it again and move on. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. And these are things that can completely derail your plan if you have one. Just make sure that everything you expect and what is important to you, that this can actually be achieved or is a reality and not just something who tells you how wonderful New Zealand is. And I mean, also typical German point of view. So we don't look for the good things. We just look where we can fail or what we dislike. And but this approach helped us a lot because we didn't have the wrong expectations.
Yeah.
And this is something I would tell anyone, independent if you're from Germany or not, that to think about. For me, for example, what I love, another thing is how for example, tax system works here. You don't have to do a tax declaration, not necessary. They will figure it out for you. And in Germany, it's I don't know, 2 weekends time. You spend 2 weekends to get this thing ready, send it away, and then to get your money back. And these are the things but you also cannot get a lot of things back. So you just have to pay your taxes. That's it. And if this is what you look like, then New Zealand's the right country. If you like to play with the taxes and get the money out of it, it's the wrong place. And it can also be things like that. Or you have to be aware that things sometimes take a bit of time here in New Zealand. It's not like you bring your bike into the garage and they tell, yeah, we'll take care of it. And then it's not like 1 or 2 days later you get a call and yeah, we sorted everything out for you and so on. Sometimes you have to call after a week or two. And if you are a kind of person that cannot deal with that, that's the wrong country for you. And these are just things you need to think about: who you are, what you dislike as a person, and then just evaluate if this is the right country for you based on that. Because just because it's the right country for me or for you or for someone else, don't believe them that it's the right for you to verify it.
That's really good advice, actually. That's so true. Yeah, that's really great advice. Do you wake up in the morning and just think, I mean, tell the truth, do you wake up in the morning and just think, oh, so glad that we moved to New Zealand? Do you ever do that?
Not in the morning, because I'm a bit grumpy in the morning.
German. They're all grumpy over there.
No, but so we think a lot of it when Judith and I go to having breakfast on the weekends. So what we really do here is a lot more than we did in Germany. It's just going out, having breakfast somewhere, having a coffee, having dinner, lunch, whatever it is. This is somehow part of the culture in New Zealand. And this is something I say, yeah, we didn't do that in Germany. I think you can count on one hand the number of times when we had breakfast on weekend at home.
Really?
We actually, yeah. So every Saturday and Sunday, if it's possible, we just go outside somewhere and sit in the sun and have breakfast or a coffee or things like that. And that's quality of life where I thought, yeah, this is something I didn't expect to. So that's a surprise for us that we do it that often, and it stays like that. We thought, yeah, okay, in the beginning, everything is new. We're in a good mood. We will, but we didn't expect it to continue. That we just keep it like that. But by now, that's something we do every weekend. This is the moment where we say, yeah, good that we did it.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I just want to reassure you, actually, and I'm telling the truth here, 14 years later, I still think that too. I still think it still feels good. It still feels like we're doing that thing. Like you say, it's just like you're so bang on, because it's like, at first you think, oh, it's just because we've only just moved here. This will end. This is just like, the what's it called? The honeymoon period. And this is not me saying that everything's perfect. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like you've used like going for a coffee as an example. Just I don't know, just like things like going for a swim in the sea, or, going and sitting on the beach and just like with a glass of wine and all those things that we never did in the UK. And you think, oh, I'm only doing it because it's like all fresh and new, but it's never stopped. And that's it. That's our life now. And it's I'm going to second that. So thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, Tobias, I could just talk to you for absolutely ages. And I know for a fact there's going to be German people out there listening, because like I say, we don't have that many German people on just chatting about coming from Germany. So it's just been fantastic. And I know they'll be listening going, don't let him go, just ask him loads more stuff. So wouldn't it be fantastic if we can meet up again in 6 months or a year or whatever you want, and just go and see how you're doing in New Zealand. You can tell me about your fabulous new job that you've got, and how, yes, you can, and just like life and how it's panning out for you. Would you be able to come back? And
of course.
That? Okay.
Of course. Why not? Enjoyed it.
Until next time, thank you so much, Toby, for joining me and for just sharing your journey. I've absolutely loved listening to it. So thank you so much. And I will speak to you again in 6 months to a year, whenever that time is right.
We'll make it. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it. Was awesome.
Give Judith a big kiss for me, won't you? And tell her I think she's an absolute...
I will.
She's up there for me now, Judith.
Yeah, she already said she will watch the video, and I'll be better nice. But
okay, Toby, I'll speak to you soon.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, see you.
Bye.
Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed that show as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're moving to New Zealand and you are interested in joining the Slack group, the private community group that we raved about and talked about on today's show, then you need to head over and get our free 5-day video guide. This is a video guide that sends you a video every day for 5 days, sharing some aspect of what life in New Zealand is like. It's absolutely free. And then when you get to the 5th day, you will be given the option of whether or not you want to join the private community, the one that we talked about. It's a fabulous, fabulous resource. I don't need to say anything more because you've already heard all about it. Go over, take the free 5-day video guide, get to day 5, and then you can decide whether or not you'd like to be a member and join our private community along with me and Brian and all those other fabulous people that are walking along the same path as you and making the move to New Zealand. So head on over to www.nzahead.com/free. Head on over to www.nzahead.com/free and get your free 5-day video guide. Get to day 5 and then you decide if you want to come and join us in our private membership group. I hope to see you on the other side. Imagine this. You live in America with your family. Your husband is in the military. And then suddenly he gets injured and he decides to do a different career. He thinks, why don't we move to New Zealand and I'll become a chef? So you move all your family to the other side of the world and you start again. How would that look?
Hearing all of these people talk about how prohibitively expensive New Zealand is, I sat Scott down, because he's the money guy, like a couple of different times, and I was like, we need to have a talk, because you're telling me that we can afford to live here, but from what I'm hearing...
In this week's episode, you're going to meet Katie. Katie was that wife who moved with her family to the other side of the world to start a completely new life. And you're going to find out exactly what that looks like.